my name is Audrey Du, and I am in grade 10 and I am 15 years old. I currently attend Unionville High School, and my hobbies include playing the flute and reading. So in English has definitely been one of my passions. I think when I started in grade 6, like even before that, I was not the brightest kid, I would say, and I kind of struggled in school. Like I didn't have like a very long attention span, and I really didn't like working. But I think it like changed a lot when I started attending iCalc at English, because I started to write about things that I enjoy, especially about stories and about events in my life. And I feel like that helped me ground myself, not just in English, but in other subjects as well, because I put my passion and my love for learning things instead of just thinking it as a task, you know? So I think that's what really propelled me forward academically and also in English aspect. Mathematics, I think it's exactly the same thing. When I was younger, I actually got a C in grade 1 math, and that was really concerning to my parents, and they had to send me to like a lot of extra math help sessions, and my dad would sit me down every day for 2 hours to do like 1 + 1, 23 + 25, and it's just like, I was just not a very like smart kid when I was younger. But I think definitely when I started to grow older, I started to enjoy like finding equations, solving things, and problem solving. And just, you know, I felt a lot of self-accomplishment when I was like, oh, when I see a question and I got to solve it, right? I was like, oh, yay, I actually got the right answer. And I feel like that helped me really grow a better foundation in math. And I think especially at iCalc, because now I'm learning much more advanced math, I can actually start applying what I used to know to like calculus or like any other topics. And I'm able to be like, oh, this is so cool. Like, oh, this formula never been solved. Or like, oh, I can apply this formula to this different problem, even though that like it might not be like directly related. And I'm like, oh, it's so cool. And I think mathematics has a lot of areas where, you know, there's a lot more areas we can like discover it in. So I think just, yeah, mathematics is like a whole new topic that I feel very interested in. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm also very surprised about myself too, because before like the pandemic, like in grade 5, like my grades were like B's and like C's, and I really didn't like school. I would like talking to my friends in lunchtime, you know, like the eating and the playing part. But I think when I started like during the pandemic, because I had a lot of time to myself, and everyone else was like not really paying attention to school because it's online school, right? I think that was the time when I started to grow, because I was like, oh, this is interesting, you know, and I got to like actually share my input. And while other students were not listening, that was actually my time to shine. It was really ironic, actually. And I think to compare myself from when I was grade 6 to how I'm now, I think it's like I see a really huge improvement in terms of like my motivations and my priorities. And I think as I continue to grow, I think I will also continue to rapidly progress in all types of skills academically, and also like just life skills like responsibility and initiative. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Yeah. I think my learning experience so far in iCalc has been really well. I think the teachers are really kind, and there's a lot of interesting content that I've never been exposed in school that I'm exposed in iCalc. Mostly, I think I've taken like debate, I've taken math, I've taken computer science, and I've taken English here all at iCalc, and I think I've learned a lot of new things about myself, and not only academically, but also like kind of personally as well. So like I already talked about English and mathematics and how I discovered a new passion for them, and I love learning new things, and that really helped me academically. But I think debate as well, and also computer science, improved my problem solving skills, my patience, and also my speaking skills. Like for example, in debate, you have to rebuttal really well, right? You have to understand the content. You have to, you know, move around thoughts. You have to like attack their arguments. And I feel like now I can be able to speak like what's on my mind rather than have to write everything down. And I think that really helped me. In computer science, there's a lot of terminology that you have to remember, as well as you have to program programs, and you have to sit there a long time, right? Like if you forget like a bracket, you have to like search for every time. You're like, oh, what's the syntax error, right? And I think that really helped me be like, oh, like my patience and my attention span. I'd be like, okay, I need to find a way to make it more efficient, or I need to find ways how to debug. And I think that just really helped me like not only apply academically, but like in a life way of like, oh, like containing emotion, right? Like being patient with myself, and as well just learning about like what works best for me. So I think, yeah. I can't think of like specific times, But like I think in general, when I'm able to interact with other students, as well as like play games, but also kind of apply my knowledge or something really precious to me. I know that like in Miss Sophia's like grade 11 English class last year, it was really fun because not only was I able to like learn things, I was also able to talk to other students, ask for their input, and we got to play games as well. So that was a good memory for me. And I also took a lot of classes online as well, especially during the pandemic. And I think for debate and English and math as well, I just really felt it was really nice because I also got to like talk to the teacher and I got to talk to other people. And especially for debate, like we got to do like team huddles, right? Because you have to like discuss the topic with other people. And I really enjoyed that because I got to learn more about the students as well as their views on the topic. So I think just in general, like learning more things and learning what other people think and just learning, like just meeting the people was something that I enjoyed. I think like every other kid, like when you go to extracurriculars, it's like not your own personal choice, right? Like, it's like your mom, your dad, you're like, you have to go, right? And they have to drag me through. And I think every extracurricular, I like that. And when I started at iCalc, I also had the same impression because, like, as I said, I didn't really love to learn, right? I love to play. And I think just pulling, so my mom had to like sign me up for all these classes. And she's like, oh, you have to go, right? And I think one of the issues I really wanted to improve myself when I first started the courses was just like enjoy myself, like time management and like having that motivation to work. And that was the biggest thing, like academically for me, is really hard. And I think I was really able to overcome that issue because, as I said, I was able to discover myself and what I really enjoy. And now that I like love academics and I love finding the answers and I love kind of like writing down my own opinions, I feel like that helped me grasp my learning like abilities because I'm able to put the energies of like what I'm interested in into like what I'm doing in school so that I'm not just doing it for the sake of doing it, I'm doing it for me, right? I'm learning for myself. So I think that's something important that I learned. Yeah. I think iCalc has helped me in a lot of ways because not only like the content that we're learning, you know, like because I'm taking a much more advanced classes than like what I did in grade 9 or grade 10. Like I'm learning like calculus, or I'm learning about how to write like essays, longer essays, or I'm reading more mature books like Macbeth and other books like that. And I feel like iCalc has like pushed me academically, but also like there's a lot of like nurturing and there's a lot of like supportive like and there's a lot of like encouragement in iCalc, especially from the teachers and from peers. I feel safe to share my ideas or like, you know, answer questions or like be able to expand my learning beyond like what's on the paper. So I feel like that's something what iCalc was able to do. And it's not just like a learning center. I feel like you can also find a lot of passions in what you're interested in. Like, for example, like when I joined like debate or when I joined English, I found a real passion for like writing, and I love speaking. And I feel like now, like in school, I can apply that because, like, for example, now I joined a TED club, which is something that I would never do if I was like in grade 6, right? And now I'm writing a TED and hopefully like maybe my TED talk will be chosen and I can broadcast it to like other people, which I think is so cool. So I think just finding myself is something that iCalc was able to enable in myself and hopefully in other students as well. Yeah. I think I'm most thankful for like my parents, first of all, because like they're the ones who like dragged me to the school, right? Like they like are like, you have to learn, you have to like work on yourself. And I think for me when I was younger, I had a very like stubborn mindset. Like if I didn't like it, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't touch it. And I think it's like, especially my mom, she actually pushed me to this school and she helped me like push myself, even though she knows that I may not like math or I may not like writing, but she wanted me to improve in those skills because she knew that like in the future that they would be very important for my academic and personal development. And I also would say like just thank you for all the mentors in iCalc, because not only like they're very encouraging and they're very nice, they also facilitate an environment where I can continue to develop my growth, right, in the subject of what I'm learning, and they're able to present the content in different ways that are engaging and that are fun, and that I'm able, and they also have passion when they speak, right? I feel like that's really important, that you're not just being like, okay, A plus B equals C, right? But you're like, oh, like what does A plus B mean? Or what does this mean? And I think just explaining why instead of just like the what is something that is really important. So I feel like that's kind of like how iCalc like moved to a different level. Yeah. I think what iCalc stands out is because like of how, like I said, like why, how they elaborate on the why rather than the what. So like I feel like in like Dr. Lee's class, for example, I can tell that he has a lot of passion in math. Like I feel like sometimes in school, like especially like in elementary, like they just taught like, okay, like 1 plus 1 is 2, right? And that's like a fact. But I feel like when I'm in Dr. Lee's class, for example, like he explains like why, or like why this formula works. And that's a very fundamental concept in math, right? It's why it works. Like why does the Pythagoras theorem like actually work? Why does it actually solve, right? So I feel like that's something that moves iCalc to a different level. That it's not just the content, it's about like the passion and kind of the why behind it, right? Like why does it work? And also I think it's just like it has a lot of like, it sections the content really well, and I feel like the teachers, they do a really good job of explaining and making it thorough in an engaging manner. Like I don't feel like a lot of pressure when I'm here, and I feel like it's really lighthearted when I'm like in classes, and I feel like that's what makes iCalc stand out, because it's not just academically, you know, more advanced and more like content based. I feel like it's also like you can learn more about yourself and about the content and really just dive deeper into what it all means. Yeah. In terms of learning, I think it's just keep believing in yourself, because when I first started out, like I knew that I'm not going to be the best at something, right? Like especially when I was younger, like I did sometimes when I did study, like I would still get really bad grades in like math because I just really didn't understand it, right? But I feel like when you grow, you're able to learn more about yourself, and you're able to find tactics that work for you. I feel like because sometimes I have really smart friends, right? And they just get it. They're like, oh my gosh, 1 plus 1 is 2. Well, I'm still thinking it's like 11 or something, right? Like, I'm like, oh, like why, right? But I feel like it's just being patient with yourself and keep trying and just finding ways that work for you. Like, you shouldn't compare yourself to other people because, oh, they may have like better grades, or like, they're like, oh, they do this and they do this and they just excel at everything. Like, look at yourself and be like, oh, okay, I can do this, right? Like, what can I do to improve, right? So I think it's just never give up. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the same as like what I was mentioning before. I think it's just continue to practice on areas. I think like everyone knows it's like, okay, never give up. I feel like everyone tells you this, right? But I think ways that you can do like an actual like context, especially like in math, is focusing on areas that you need like more support in. So for me, I remember like in science last year, like we had like 3 different strands. So we had like chemistry, we had physics, and then we had bio. And bio had like a lot of complex topics. You had to learn the digestive system, you had to learn about like stem cells. So I focused all my time there. While chemistry, I already knew how to like write formulas, right? And I know how all that. So I didn't focus as much. So then in physics, I also had trouble drawing diagrams. So instead of spending all my time doing like chemistry, I actually practiced all the questions on physics and bio on areas that I needed help. So I drew a lot of diagrams. I tested myself on all the terms. And I feel like recounting stories or recounting the content to someone actually helps. And I know there's like studies out there where like if you teach the content to someone, the more likely you are to remember them. So if you just blankly read something over and over again, you're actually not retaining the information. You're just like keeping it in your short-term memory. But if you actually like rearrange the information, that's why taking notes is really important, because you're rearranging it. You're able to remember it better. So also I had like study groups as well. So I'm like, oh, okay, why does this formula work? Or this is the digestive tract. This is how it works. So I'm like, oh, that's how I remember it. And yeah, I think it's just also taking the initiative and responsibility to learn the content is something really important. It's like knowing where you are and what method works best for you to be able to retain the content is important. So yeah, I think it's just like learning about yourself and kind of like applying techniques that work best for you that is the most important. Yeah. Yeah, I think that was like really shocking for me. Like I knew like I wasn't really expecting, because it was my first year in Unionville, so I was like, whoa, I actually got like a check for like just doing well in school. And I was like, whoa, that's so cool. And I think that was a big motivator for me, because now that like, yes, it's getting harder now because like I'm in older grades, I still try my best. And I feel like even though like I may not be meeting the mark that I used to meet, that I still have that constant attitude that to move forward, right? To grow, to do my best. And I think just allowing myself to see like what I've done in the past, I can be like, oh, if I can do that, then I can do this. And I feel like that really helped me push through a lot of like struggles academically. And yeah, so I think that facilitated motivation for me. Yeah. As kind of like I mentioned, I didn't really think that I would be able to achieve like such a high mark, because like in elementary school I was also like trying really hard as well, but like there was a lot of like kids in my high school and my elementary school that were like really bright, right? And I still remember like when I was in grade 8, like I really wanted to be like valedictorian, but I didn't get the role, right? And I didn't get voted, and I was kind of upset. But I feel like what I learned about myself and what challenges I did is like, first is like you can never be like perfect. I feel like that's a lesson that not only like students learn, but also like when you're in your adult life as well. Because when I started like riding my academics, like I had this gut feeling where like everything had to be like 100, or right, like I can't make a mistake, or like why, like I just kept thinking about that. But I feel like even academically speaking, or just like in life, nothing is going to be perfect, right? Like you're not going to get 100 on every single test, right? You're going to make a mistake at some point. So I feel like just knowing that and just doing the best I can, then just putting like an insane high bar above me is a lesson that I learned. But another lesson I think is also just taking risks. I think I learned this a lot from my mom, because she kind of has an opposite personality than me. She's much more outgoing. She meets like a whole new friends if we like go somewhere new, and just like very like really like energetic. But like for me, I feel like it's harder because I like to stay in my own bubble. So another lesson that I learned is to take risks, right? Like you're never gonna know what's gonna happen until you do it. Like going to iCalc, right? Like I didn't know what's gonna happen. So I think just trying it before you judge it is something that I really learned. And maybe like this thing that you try can maybe revolutionize like what happens in the future. So I think just always keeping an open mindset is something that, yeah, I learned from. Yeah. I think it's just, again, finding like what is the priority. So like for example, like I have a lot of concerts next month because it's like concert season, and I have a lot of competitions as well. So now I know I have to chunk off like a lot of time to practice, right? But like if I have like a chemistry test tomorrow, then I'm like, oh, then I have to focus on my chemistry. So for me, I have to find out times that I have to like take out to fit in another thing. So like for example, like typically in Unionville you get like an hour or something for lunch, which is like really long, right? So if I like had nothing and like, you know, I'm free, then I would just like talk with my friends. But if I had like a chemistry test or I had to practice, then I would have to sacrifice that time to, you know, be able to practice my flute or like get through some content, right? So I think it's just making sacrifices as well as just finding like what is the most important that allowed me to stay like okay, balanced in my life. And definitely keeping the motivation is something important as well. And also just taking breaks also helps, because sometimes when you're really stuck on a thing, you get really frustrated. I feel like especially if you're like a musician, you can relate, like, oh, if you don't get the passage, you get really frustrated, you're like, oh, why can I not do it? But stepping away for a couple minutes, you know, drinking some water, you know, eating some snacks actually helps you reset your focus. So when you come back to it, you come back into a new perspective. So I think just knowing like myself as well, when I'm like studying, I'm like, okay, if I keep going, it's not going to work for me. So I'm going to stop for a while and then come back to it is something that I also feel like helped me when I'm studying or like when I'm practicing. And it's something just universal. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm pretty passionate about kind of like academics in general and the music field. For university, I'm specifically want to aim for like a pediatric I want to be a pediatrician, so I've always really loved helping people, especially I love young kids. So I feel like being a doctor who can help these young kids and being that, beacon and just that helping them get through these difficult times is something that works for me. And definitely because I don't have as much experience in bio and like chem as much as I have in like English and math, I can still apply the skills that I learned. And so far, I feel like when you put your mind up to something, you're able to achieve it. So yeah, so I feel like just continue to push on and hopefully I can get into a good university. Yes. For creative writing, I think it's just letting your imagination run wild. Because I feel like especially a lot of kids my age, like they tend to think very less open-minded. Like I feel like when you're a child, you have so many ideas, right? Because you're not as experienced, thinking about unicorns and rainbows, and you're like, whoa, it's so cool. But I think when you start to grow up, you start to fit into reality more, right? You're more like, okay, this is actually what happens, right? But creative writing is all about kind of pushing that possibility of what can happen, and you kind of analyze each aspect. So I think when you're writing, it's just keeping an open mindset and just letting yourself think with different ideas and see which one fits best is important. And I feel like especially in creative writing is that you're not only just sharing your own story, but you're also presenting it to others. Having others peer at it or have others just see if they understand the text is important just in any writing context, because you are writing what you think is good, but you don't actually know how it sounds to other people. So I think just bringing that content to others can help solidify it. Yeah. Kind of preparing yourself and also just trusting yourself. I feel like I don't know, when you're applying to schools in general, I feel like you're really pressured, right? Because you don't know if you're going to get in and you're like, okay, maybe I really, really want to go and this is the best way for my pathway. But I don't know, I think it's just trying your best in school and just working your hardest. There's not much I can say. I think it's just self-motivation that really sets you apart from other applicants, is that you're focused on a wide range of areas, and you're pursuing your passions as well as academically. So even if okay, let's say your grades are not the best, I think just say if you love rock climbing or you love music or you love drawing, I feel like pursuing those passions while taking school is really important. And just setting your mind to anything you do and making sure that whatever you do is in line what you think is something important. And it just no pressure, just do your best, let life take you on the course. And yeah, I think it's just believing yourself and trying. I think that's the most important thing. Yeah. The most deep impression of me, I think it's just seeing kind of my before and after, because as I said, when I was younger, I was really not academically well, but just seeing how I'm growing in different aspects, even musically speaking or physically speaking or any of that, seeing my improvement has left a big impression on me that I have more potential. And I feel like a lot of people can also see, not just look at what they're doing right now, be like, oh, I'm not getting as good grades as I used to get, but just see how I feel okay. I feel I think for me, because I am a perfectionist a lot, when I don't get what I want, I feel like I'm okay, this is really bad, right? I start to think down on myself. But when my mom she brings up look how much you've improved, I think that's a big motivator, and that left a really deep impression of me, because usually we're really stuck in the present or we're stuck in the future. We're okay, what is gonna happen if I do this, right? Or I fail this. I think it's just seeing your improvement and you're seeing how I improve, and just being proud of yourself is something that left a really deep impression on me, and hopefully people can learn about that. It's about your journey and not others people's journey. So yeah, I think that is something that I was whoa, so cool. I think the first one is like you should let yourself forgive yourself. I feel like if you make mistakes, because mistakes are really common. And even if okay, let's say you missed the question, you read it wrong. I remember in grade 9, I was because it was grade 9 math, and for me, I've learned more complex topics. I had 100 throughout the entire year, but then on the exam, I read the question wrong, and then I got I was really upset after that. But obviously everyone makes mistakes, right? You can't get 100 all the time, and I think that was a big lesson for me. So it's just even if it's what happens in the past is in the past, right? You can't change your mark. You can't go back. You can't be oh, I can change. I accidentally forgot to add that correctly. You're not gonna change that, right? You can't. But what you can change is the future, right? So I feel setting yourself in what's going to happen rather than what is already happened is something important. It's what you can do in the present, right? And I think another thing is to step out of your comfort zone, because when you're I feel when people tend to stay in their safe bubble, right? They don't want to go out, but when you actually step out, you can see different ways, different perspectives, and maybe that can help you grow. And I feel that's really important in any context, right? Is to take risks so that not only you learn about yourself, but you learn about different characteristics you have. And it's just, I think, yeah, just stepping out of your bubble and just having an open mind is important. Yeah. I would say just thank you so much for facilitating a really good environment that is really encouraging and really supportive. And I think just continue keeping up the good work. And I just hope that all the students coming here can experience the same growth as I did, and that they continue to grow their passion for learning.